Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever wondered why some products just seem to carry the very soul of the place they were made? Well, today we're diving into a genuinely fascinating corner of intellectual property law. We're going to explore how international and local laws leverage the sheer power of place to protect the authenticity of the world's most cherished regional products. So, it's basically a journey into geography, tradition, and economics, all wrapped up in a little thing we call a GI tag. Okay, let's take a quick look at our agenda for today. We'll be covering 1. The power of place, 2. Why GI tags matter, 3. GI versus other IP rights, 4. The path to protection, 5. Global and local icons, and finally, 6. The future of authenticity. Let's get right to it. Section 1. The power of place, the origins of authenticity. So to really wrap our heads around this topic, we first have to ask a remarkably simple question. Why isn't all sparkling wine legally allowed to be called champagne? I mean, people try to counterfeit premium goods literally all the time, right? But certain famous names are fiercely guarded by the law. If a producer outside a very specific region just slaps the name champagne on their bottle, they're actually committing intellectual property infringement. But why exactly is that?
Well, the answer lies right here in the literal earth. Just look at the sweeping vineyard landscapes of the Champagne region in France. The legal protection exists because reproducing this exact product anywhere else is quite literally impossible. The specific climate, the unique soil composition, the native geography, all of these physical elements are completely baked into the final product. It's like nature's own signature.
And that brings us to the formal definition. A geographical indication, or a GI tag, is recognized by the World Trade Organization. It's an intellectual property right that identifies a good as originating in a specific territory where its quality, reputation, or characteristic is essentially attributable to its geographic origin. Now, in plain English, it legally binds a product's unique qualities directly to the land it comes from. It's basically telling consumers, hey, this cannot be authentically replicated anywhere else in the world. Moving on to Section 2. Why GI tags matter. Protecting rural economies and traditions. Now take a look at the contrast here. On one hand, you have the premium finished product, a beautiful wedge of Parmigiano-Reggiano cheese, a super famous GI from Italy. But then, look at the traditional stone aging caves right alongside it. A GI tag doesn't just protect that delicious piece of cheese. It's actively preserving centuries-old traditional knowledge, incredible localized human skill, and the very environment it's made in. It's the whole shebang. So the really crucial takeaway here is that these tags act as absolute economic lifelines. By stopping unauthorized producers from falsely claiming a famous name, GI tags protect authenticity and shut down counterfeiting. But think about the human impact for a second. They promote rural economies. They support farmers, tribal communities, handloom workers, and artisans. Because these goods gain global recognition and consumer trust, they can command a premium export price, and that ensures the local community actually thrives. All right, Section 3, GI versus other IP rights, sorting out the legal landscape. Now you might be thinking, wait, isn't this just a trademark? Let's do a rapid-fire comparison to sort this out. Let's look at trademarks first. Notice how a GI is deeply tied to a community and a physical place of origin. It's usually owned collectively by a producer association, and, get this, it is strictly non-transferable. You can't just sell the rights to make Darjeeling tea to some random farm in Canada. No way! A trademark, on the other hand, identifies a business brand. Think of Nike. It's owned by a specific company or individual, and that company can easily buy, sell, or transfer that trademark to someone else entirely. Okay, what about patents? Well, they're almost the exact opposite in their requirements. A patent strictly demands absolute novelty, right? It exists to protect a brand new invention, meaning innovation is absolutely mandatory. A GI tag, on the flip side, protects deep-rooted historical tradition. There is literally no requirement for innovation. Actually, a GI celebrates the fact that a product is made the exact same way it has been made for hundreds of years. Let's jump to Section 4, the path to protection, navigating the mechanics. Now that we clearly know what a GI tag is and why it matters so much, let's look at the reality of securing this powerful protection. Spoiler alert, it's not as simple as just filling out a quick online form. The path is a rigorous 6-step process. First, you have to identify a product with real historical significance to an area. Then comes the tough part, gathering the evidence. Applicants have to compile historical records, scientific data, maps, and absolute proof of traditional production methods. This application is usually submitted by a producer association. Then it goes through a strict examination by a GI registry to verify authenticity, gets published for public objections, and finally achieves registration.
So, how long does this hard-won protection actually last? Well, in India, for example, under the Geographical Indications of Goods Act of 1999, once a product is registered with the registry in Chennai, the protection is valid for 10 years. But here's the really great news for these communities. It can be continuously renewed every 10 years indefinitely. Yep, forever. Just as long as those stringent geographical conditions and quality criteria are consistently maintained.
Section 5. Global and local icons, celebrating variety and heritage.
All this legal framework is super fascinating, but let's look at some spectacular real-world examples that have actually secured this protection. When we think of geographical origin, we usually default to food and drink, right? Like Scotch whiskey or Roquefort cheese. But it's honestly so impressive to realize that GIs go way beyond agriculture. Just look at this incredibly diverse list from India alone. They protect food products like the Tirupati Laddu, stunning handicrafts like Madhubani paintings, world-renowned textiles like Banarasi saris, and even highly specialized manufactured goods like the Aranmula Kannadi metal mirrors from Kerala. It's a massive variety. Let's look closely at a legendary example, the lush, terraced tea hills of Darjeeling in West Bengal. Darjeeling tea relies entirely on the unique climate, the altitude, and the soil of these specific hills. If anyone outside this designated area tries to sell their tea as Darjeeling, they are flat-out misleading the consumer and infringing on the GI. This tag makes it a globally recognized icon that simply cannot be replicated anywhere else on Earth. Likewise, GI tags can also protect incredibly valuable forest-based and natural resources. Take Mysore sandalwood logs, for instance. By securing a GI tag, the immense cultural reputation and the market value of this natural resource are fiercely protected. It prevents unfair competition for sure, but more importantly, it ensures that the local region and its traditional workers actually reap the economic benefits of their own native flora.
And finally, Section 6, the future of authenticity. Challenges in a globalized world.
We've seen the power of these products, but let's wrap this up by confronting the very real day-to-day enforcement challenges they face today. Despite having strong legal frameworks like the WTO agreements, trying to enforce these rights across international borders remains incredibly difficult. While big associations can totally afford to fight legal battles, small rural producers often face really steep costs just for the required certifications. And because consumer awareness varies so much globally, these traditional artisans are unfortunately still out there battling relentless, cheap counterfeits that flood the global market. Which brings us to the ultimate question. As our world becomes more and more connected and globalization accelerates, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. Will your favorite regional goods eventually lose their authenticity to a sea of global counterfeits? Or will these GI tags, by preserving history and geography, make the true, authentic origin of the things you consume more valuable than ever before? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Next time you see a famous regional name on a label, you'll know exactly the power of the place behind it.